What I'm going to do today is I'm going to do my best to give them a voice and stand out and make sure that they are heard. Okay, but first I want to thank everybody for visiting Right IQ, and my name is Ty, and I want to make sure that everybody understands that this could have been your neighborhood. It still can, because these things are happening all over the U.S. today, and I'm going to get into that also. But first, I want to start by listening to the local news and how they're responding to it, to this tragedy, and the preparations that they've done, and the what they're giving the green light for. Listen to this.
Officials say that the Ohio River is big enough, thankfully, that many of those chemicals have been diluted.
Ohio EPA and other state agencies have been working with the Ohio River Valley Water Sanitation Commission, some may know as ORSANCO, to track the contaminant plume in real time. It's moving at about a mile an hour. ORSANCO's tracking allows for potential closing of drinking water intakes to allow the majority of the chemicals to pass. This strategy, along with drinking water treatment like oxidation and advanced treatment like activated carbon, are both effective at addressing these contaminants and helps ensure the safety of the drinking water supplies. So we're pretty confident that these low levels are not getting passed on to the customers.
I'm sure that lady is a very nice lady, and I'm sure that she's doing the best job that she can with the information that she has. But I work with water every day, and what I can tell you is that it is not as simple as they are making it sound. And it's not just the water; it's the when they caught those chemicals on fire. And I deal with chemicals every day also, and what I can tell you is that it is bad enough to burn one chemical, but there were 4 different chemicals that were burned, and each of those chemicals on their own are very, 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 very poisonous. I cannot explain to you how poisonous each one of these are together. I couldn't even tell you what that means when you mix all of those chemicals together and you burn them. That is a petri dish from hell right there. And I am not going to sit here and tell you that they had other alternatives. I don't know. I couldn't tell you for sure, because cleanup is a very, very sticky subject. And if it's not done right, then you can cause more problems also. So I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that they did everything right or if they did everything wrong. But what I'm going to tell you is that what went up into those skies was not good. And what goes up must come down. Either it comes down in concentration right there, which a lot of it did in Pristine, or it comes down in the surrounding areas, catches the wind stream, and sends it around the United States and the world. And I don't know how diluted it gets up there in the wind stream or anything like that. All we know for sure is a whole bunch of really bad chemicals went up into the air, and they're going to come down, and they're already feeling the effects over there in Pristine and the surrounding areas of Pristine, and not just in the water, it's in the soil. People were breathing this stuff in, and nobody around there can tell you what future effects that's going to have on the women, men, and children over there. Not to mention the soil, okay, the air quality, and the water. Take a look at this lady right here. She had some chickens, and within 24 hours after them burning it, look what happened.
So I walked up to the cage, and this is what I found.
Amanda Brashears was going to feed her 5 hens and rooster this morning when she discovered them all lifeless, practically in the same position, with no signs of a predator entering their enclosure.
I'm beyond upset and quite panicked, because they may be just chickens, but they're family.
Brashear says her chickens were alive and well yesterday. She believes the smell following the detonation of the train carrying chemicals that derailed in East Palestine is to blame for her birds' sudden death.
My video camera footage shows my chickens were perfectly fine before they started this burn. And as soon as they started the burn, my chickens slowed down and they died. If we can do this to chickens in one night, imagine what it's going to do to us in 20 years.
That lady is 100% correct. Those chickens and the fish in the streams and all the wildlife, they are the canary in the coal mine as far as how toxic it is for human beings also. And so just because human beings didn't keel over and die immediately from these poisons that were raining down on them doesn't mean that in the future, could be recent, could be the near future, could be far future, could be a year away, 6 months away. It could be 10 years away or 15 years away. So she's 100% correct. If this is what's happening to the chickens and the livestock and the animals that are roaming around that area, they are the canary in the coal mine, and they should be worried. Look, I would love to sit up here and tell you everything is going to be all right, everything is going to move on, and everybody's going to forget about this, and we're going to laugh about it in the future, but nobody's going to laugh about this. No, this is not something that's going away anytime soon. And they're already seeing what they say, over 6,000 fish have died. That's, I mean, I don't know who goes around counting how many fish died, but I'm sure there's more than that. If there's 6,000, there's more. And that doesn't include like worms and frogs and insects. And all of these animals are part of the ecosystem. You take one of those animals, you take earthworms out of the ecosystem, and then your soil dies. You take frogs out of the ecosystem, and you have an insect population that expands and can cause problems. So I don't know what happens if half of your wildlife dies. What happens to that ecosystem? I'm not exactly sure. Take a look at the stream that they have over there on, it's called Leslie's Run. Take a look at the stream that they have over there and look at the precautions that they took, and look at the devastation to this small creek. Can you imagine what it's doing in the large rivers? Take a look at this.
I am currently in Negley, Ohio. I'm at the corner of By Road and US 170 North. This is the bridge that goes over top of Leslie Run. This is their filter barrier that they have currently. But I think it's important for people to see the dead fish. I'm gonna walk under the bridge here above and show you. Coming right up, another fish. There's hundreds of them up here. In this area across here, hundreds. Another fish. Another fish. They're just everywhere.
That's crazy. That's crazy. And what they want you to believe is that the worst of it is over, and that we can all get back to our regular lives and everything is going to be okay. But it's not. It's not over yet. See, I remember when the Exxon Valdez, you know what I mean, when they had that huge oil spill, I think it was out in the Gulf of Mexico, and they had oil everywhere, and it was very visible. Wildlife was coming out of the ocean, covered in this, this black oil. And there was oil over the beaches, and what they did was they went over every rock, wiped everything down. They took all this wildlife out, cleaned them off, tried to save them. You're not seeing any of that happening right now. You're not. And what they want you to believe is that it's run its course, it's going to go out to the major lakes, it's going to get diluted, and everything is going to be okay. But that's not how chemicals act. Did you see that filtration that they put out there? That little line that they had going across that creek? That is more than likely that's got carbon in it, and carbon attracts contaminants. That's true. It does, but it's resting on top of the water. Okay, how much water is going underneath that and bypassing that? Probably a lot. But that's not it. They want you to believe that they've taken these steps and it's all over now. Everybody can just go back to normal. But here's what happens. Everything that goes into the water eventually settles. Okay? And then when it gets disturbed, it reactivates itself. Take a look at this video of a stream that looked like it was okay until you threw a rock in it. Take a look at this.
Wow.
Look at all that.
Look at it.
It's all in the bottom of the creek bed. Now look at it. But they burned all the chemicals off of there, right?
That's what I heard, yeah.
Maybe off the top.
So for the people who are listening on podcast, let me go ahead and break down that last clip for you. So a lady threw a rock into a stream that just looked like a normal stream. And a small river could be, and so she threw this rock into this small stream, and all of a sudden, as soon as that rock hit the bottom, and the water started jostling around with the ripples, all of a sudden you see this rainbow sheen rise to the surface of the water, not just where the rock hit, but everywhere the water was jostled around. And what that is those are the toxins that were resting on the floor coming up to the surface, so that you could see it, right? So it's reactivated itself, and can now be. So imagine if your kids were playing in that creek. Okay, imagine if your kids were playing in that creek a year from now. Yes, they could still be poisoned from that water. In my opinion, okay, and I'm not a professional, I just have a little bit of common sense, and I am in the water industry over here in California. What I would highly recommend is that they dredge those rivers and the creeks and all those waterways, dredge them and filter them. They can send it through the activated carbon, and the activated carbon will more than likely do its job, but you have got to get all of that chemical up off of the creek bed and get that moving through the activated carbon so that it can be absorbed into that activated carbon. But that's not what's happening. What's happening now is the water is going underneath as it flows, it goes underneath the activated carbon, bypasses it, and settles somewhere else. And that's a problem. And that's what's going to cause this to continue being a problem for years and years and years to come. Yes, there is an earth filtration system, right? The earth will filter water as it goes through the soil. Okay? But it will end up in the aquifers. It will end up in people's wells. And if that water, it'll settle in those wells, but as soon as that water is jostled a little bit, there's some motion within that water, it's going to disturb it, and it's going to rise and get mixed up with the water again. So if you're drinking that water, you're drinking that poison. Now, the dilution rate on that, I'm not exactly sure of, and I'm not going to make any assumptions on that, but I will assume that as much chemical as got sent up into the air, and as it came down concentrated, there is a lot of chemical in that water, in that soil, and that's why all the wildlife is dying. And until you get rid of those poisons, see, all these fish and frogs and everything like that, where do you think they hang out? The worms, where do you think they hang out? They hang out at the bottom of the creeks and rivers. That's where they get their food from. Right? So this is going to be an ongoing problem. And I wish that they were handling this like the Exxon Valdez, because that would give me more hope, but they're not. They're not handling it like that. They just want to close this chapter and move on. And that's very disturbing to me. And I want to tell the people of Palestine that my heart goes out for you. And my family is praying for you. And I urge everybody who is watching this video today, I urge you to pray for them too, because they need it. Because they are not getting the support that they need.